Consider the function g of x equals 3x squared plus 4x plus 6. Find the difference quotient, and I've given you the formula. It is g of x plus h minus g of x all over h. So we're going to do this in pieces. The first thing we're going to do is figure out this, g of x plus h. So I'm going to kind of map it out for you. Number one, we're going to find g of x plus h, okay? Then once we find that, we are going to find g of x plus h minus g of x, which, as you notice, that's the numerator of the difference quotient. The third step is to find the whole thing. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to rewrite the results of step 2. That's the numerator. Then we're going to divide by h and simplify. Okay. This may seem a little overwhelming, like how in the world do you find g of x plus h? There's multiple variables now, right? I started out with just x's, now I've got x's and h's. That may seem intimidating. So we're going to go step by step. We're just going to kind of walk ourselves through this process. But we're going to start with g of x plus h. Maybe we need to back up just a little bit more. If you're not comfortable, let's back up just a little bit more. So we want to find g of x plus h. But that may be daunting, or we're going to do some scratch. Let's plug in nice numbers. So let's do g of 1. So I'm replacing this x right here with a 1. We're not going to simplify. We're just going to try to establish the pattern. So g of 1. Okay, well that's easy, right? I can handle that. Those are numbers. I'm not plugging in multiple variables. Deep breath. I got this. This is g of, well, okay, I've replaced this x with a 1, so I better replace that x with a 1. I can do that. G of 1 squared plus 4. Oh, there's another x. 4 times 1 plus 6. So check. G of 1 is 3 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 plus 6. Because this function says take my input, you're going to square it and multiply by 3, and then add 4 times that input and add 6. Okay, the input's 1. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Let's try another one. G of 4. Well, that's 3 times 4 squared plus 4 times 4 plus 6. Because all I'm doing is I've replaced this x with a 4. So I've got to replace every x with a 4. Does that make sense? And we're not simplifying on purpose. So, because I want you to see the pattern. What's g of 19? Okay, we do the same thing. 3, well, instead of x, I'm going to write 19. So 3 times 19 squared plus 4 times 19 plus 6. Okay, all right, you're really thinking about it. Does this sort of make sense? Hopefully. If you need to pause the video at any time, please pause. So g of 185. Okay, that's going to be 3 times 185 squared plus 4 times 185 plus 6. All right? You starting to get the pattern? Okay, we're going to do some more. Just going to make ourselves comfortable. G of 1.4. Well, that's 3 times 1.4 squared plus 4 times 1.4 plus 6. I'm going to stop highlighting. G of 54. 3 times 54 squared plus 4 times 54 plus 6. I'm going to go faster. G of 111. 3 times 111 squared plus 4 times 111 plus 6. G of negative 14. 3 times negative 14 squared plus 4 times negative 14 plus 6. G of 206. 3 times 206 squared plus 4 times 206 plus 6. G of 1,000. 3 times 1,000 squared plus 4 times 1,000 plus 6. G of x plus h. 3 times x plus h squared plus 4 times x plus h plus 6. What? Look, we did it. So if you're wondering what I did, what my strategy was there, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I don't want you to overthink this. I've taught this a lot. Taught this to a lot of students, and they are really comfortable when we plug in numbers. And they can do this, and this is easy for them. They may not like it, they may not be their favorite, but they can do it, they can handle it. They really start to panic when they're plugging in variables. So I just pull a whole bunch of numbers out of the air. You see, I just made these up. These are random. And I can hear it in my students' voices. I have them tell me what to do, and they start plugging it in. And I can hear the point, maybe it's about right here, where their voice shifts, and I can tell they've sort of turned on autopilot. And then I throw in the one we're looking for, and they can do it with no problem. They understand the pattern. They're not trying too hard. Okay, so that's how we're going to do the first part. We've actually done part 1, right? 3 times x plus h squared plus 4 times x plus h plus 6. We're going to clean it up. But we actually did the hard part, right? So let me just rewrite this over here. G of x plus h is 3 times x plus h squared plus 4 times x plus h plus 6. Okay, now we're going to clean this up. So x plus h squared. Okay, x plus h squared. That's x plus h times x plus h. And I'm doing my scratch up here because you see I did all the scratch on the side. So you can FOIL this out. X squared plus xh plus xh plus h squared. And some students ask me why I say xh and not hx. It doesn't really matter. Multiplication is commutative. Okay, we combine the middle terms. And when you do that, you get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. So I'm going to put this in place of this. So we get 3 times x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Okay, just rewriting that. Does that make sense? Please, 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 please take the time to write these side by side and FOIL it if you don't know how to do this. It is not x squared plus h squared. Notice there is an additional middle term. We have another rule in algebra that says if you have a plus b and you square it, we have a special product formula. You can square the front, multiply the front and the back together, so a times b, and then multiply by 2, so plus 2ab, and take the back and square it. So this is what this is, right? Take the front and square it, multiply the front and back together, x times h, and multiply by 2, and then take the back and square it and add them all up. So now we distribute here as well. 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared plus 4x plus 4h plus 6. And that's as far as we can go. But that was step 1, right? Find g of x plus h. So step 2 is find g of x plus h minus g of x. G of x plus h minus g of x. We already found part of it. G of x plus h is this, right? So I'm just going to do it down here. This is 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared plus 4x plus 4h plus 6. That's g of x plus h. Okay, then we're going to write a big minus sign to represent this minus sign. So this was g of x. Put that right here. Use parentheses, 3x squared plus 4x plus 6, because we want to subtract off every single term, not just the first term. So we're going to distribute. When you end up doing this, you are distributing a minus sign. So you are changing all of the signs in the last term. So we have 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared plus 4x plus 4h plus 6. Minus 3x squared minus 4x minus 6. Every single term here that does not have an h in it will cancel or you messed up. So we have a negative 3x squared and a positive 3x squared. So those are going to cancel. This cancels with this. Negative 4x, positive 4x. So those cancel. A negative 6 and a positive 6. Those are going to cancel. Look at the terms that are remaining. We have a 6xh plus a 3h squared plus a 4h. Every single term that does not cancel has an h in it, or we screwed up. Okay, so that's g of x plus h minus g of x. If you go back to number 3 over here in our process, now we're going to put it all together. We're going to rewrite the result of number 2 and just put the whole thing over h, divide by h. This is actually the part that's called the difference quotient. what we're going to do is rewrite the numerator. So this numerator right here is this. I'm just going to rewrite that right there. So this is 6xh plus 3h squared plus 4h. We're going to divide the whole thing by h. Now, I said it many times, every single term that did not cancel has an h in it, right? So now we are going to factor out an h from every single term in the numerator. So factor out an h, open a set of parentheses. 6xh, if you factor out an h, you get 6x. Plus 3h squared, you factor out an h, you get plus 3h. 4h, you factor out an h, you get the 4. Okay? And just take it a moment and check it. I'm sorry, h times 6x, yes. H times 3h, yes. H times 4, yes. Okay, now look. You have an h in the numerator, an h in the denominator, and they cancel. So you're left with 6x plus 3h plus 4. This is the difference quotient. Wasn't that fun?